We saw Zootopia 2. So I had a lot of criticisms of the first Zootopia movie. It makes a lot more sense to me now, knowing that it was a very different film until fairly late in pre-production, and it got kind of rewritten sort of close to the hour. I thought that Zootopia 1 had a lot of issues with it had a very muddled allegory that messed its message up a lot. It's very awkward and strange. It's not a very biting or, honestly, in my opinion, accurate depiction of racism. It's kind of a bad allegory, and I think it's misused. And one of the things I remember saying was, man, I just wish it was a class allegory. I feel like that would work so much better for this whole predator-prey thing that they've set up. You know, Judy Hopps is the Yakubian devil, yada yada. So then I watched Zootopia 2, and to my surprise, they addressed almost every issue that I had with that first movie. And I think that the good parts of the first movie are still very strong here. I think this is actually I would say this is actually a sequel that's better than the original, which is rare for movies, and also almost never happens with Disney. I'm trying to think of a single Disney sequel that I think I would actually call better than the original. So what am I talking about? So the whole premise of Zootopia 2, so first of all, they completely ditch the predator-prey allegory. Thank God. Just leave it in the past. Never bring it up again. Instead, it's actually about different, types of animals. In this case, reptiles. Something I never really thought about was that in the original Zootopia, basically all the animals we saw are mammals. Reptiles were totally absent, and that's kind of curious. This movie asks, hey, why is that? Why are reptiles just not a thing in Zootopia if this is such a progressive, integrated society with predators and prey animals? And the reason for that is, guess what? A class allegory. And hey, you know, the category where we break down animals into mammals, reptiles, fish, amphibians. You know what those are called? Classes. They're called classes. So, essentially, spoilers because I don't care. Essentially, the actual conflict of the movie is that reptiles were the main villain of the movie are these lynxes. This lynx, powerful family of lynxes who own a bunch of land in Zootopia. And in the past, basically screwed reptiles out of their community and forced them out. And then they invented the weather walls that make life in Zootopia possible for all these different types of animals. And then used the weather walls to literally bury the reptile neighborhood in snow, which would make it uninhabitable for cold-blooded creatures. And the snake character who's in all the marketing is basically trying to get a MacGuffin book that's going to reveal the location of the house that holds the patent that proves that his great-grandmother was the one who invented the weather walls and not the ancestor of the lynxes. Okay, so that's basically the main conflict of the movie. And I think that it works significantly better. It's because it's a much more contemporary, a modern, appropriate allegory for racism. Because this racism is dealt through financial institutions. Excuse me. Financial institutions and gentrification. That's what happens in the movie. The snakes got gentrified out of their land and essentially slandered and had all these negative stereotypes brought upon them to basically force them to live away on I think a different continent. And I think that I think it works I think it works really well. It works much better than the predator-prey thing, because the problem with the predator-prey thing is that that's just like how nature works. That's just like, yeah, there have to be predators and prey. That's how the ecosystem sustains itself. Some animals are inherently carnivores. They need to eat meat. Some animals are inherently herbivores, and they just get killed, and it's actually like a good thing. Like, again, it's ecologically, it's a weird message to say that predators are bad, because predators are necessary for keeping ecosystems alive. If you take out all the predators, like that one park where they ran all the wolves out, or they killed all the wolves or something like that. Oh, hey, guess what? It turns out that there's no animals to eat the deer, and then the deer start getting too populous, and then they start eating all the grass because they eat grass, and now there's not enough grass, which means that the whole ecosystem gets fucked up. All the plant life and stuff gets fucked up. So we got to reintroduce wolves to balance everything out. It's just a weird thing to say that there is like a racial component to that when you know how the real world works. So here, it's like there's a totally different layer of abstraction, like a totally different wall in between, where it's like mammals are distrustful of reptiles. Okay. In this like anthropomorphic type setting, I can believe that much more, that there is some kind of prejudice against different types of animals. I mean, they don't have fur, they have scales, they're cold-blooded. There's all sorts of like cultural references that you can make to different, like the reptiles represent different types of cultures. At least one of them is played by Danny Trejo, so some of them are Mexican. And what works so much better about it is that it acknowledges just by way of like revealing the twist, how real racism functions, at least in part, in the real world. Like, the issue, again, my issue with the first movie was there's this really weird muddled message, like allegory, and then the whole middle of the movie doesn't even build on it at all. And then it's like, oh yeah, and racism's bad. Something. And then with this movie, with Zootopia 2, instead they introduce this element where everything you learn about the mystery actually builds on the real world analog and allegory that it's making. Like, this is a thing that has happened before. Have you ever heard of Black Wall Street? There was like an entire neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was in the 20s, or in the late 10s, 1910s. It was this like bustling center. It was a primarily black community. It was a bustling center of commerce, and it was guess what happened? Well, I pulled up an image of it. A lot of black smoke in this. They literally, like, there was some spat that, was it true? Did it happen? I don't know, but something tipped off a conflict for what is essentially like what a race war looks like. A bunch of white people came in and burned down, let's get the numbers on this, 35 city blocks, 300 people dead, 800 injured. In order to protect, there was supposedly a black man attempted to rape a white woman. We have to protect our white women. Let's kill 300 black people. Like they burned to the ground, obliterated. This is a real thing that's happened. Like this kind of pushing an entire community out for prejudiced reasons has happened before. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot. There's a little bit more to talk about. Some people were saying that this movie has a twist villain. It's his name is Paubert, which is a stupid ass name. I actually, so some people didn't like that he was the twist villain. I kind of liked it, not because, was I surprised? Sorta? I wasn't, well, here's the thing. I wasn't that surprised when his heel turn came, because the way he was written, as soon as it happened, it was really obvious, because I was like, oh, yeah. He's like a male feminist. He's written like that guy who always really wants you to know how down he is with the women's rights and all that, and how bullshit the patriarchy is. That sort of like vaguely effeminate. Is he gay? Is he bisexual? Who knows? He's always talking about women's empowerment. Always when women are around, funny enough. And then you don't hear from him for a while, and you're like just sitting around with a friend, and you're like, hey, I haven't heard from Dave in a while. What's he doing? What's he doing? And then your friend goes, oh, you didn't hear? And you're like, no, what did I? And then you find out, and you're like, oh shit, fuck, ugh. What a creep. That's what Pobbert's written like. I like him as a twist villain, because I think he kind of, again, strengthens the message of the movie. Like, for most of the film, it's like, okay, Pobbert is working with, the snake's name is Gary too. Huh, a lot like The World's End. He's working with Gary the Snake to undermine his own family, right? That's what you're led to believe. And then it turns out that actually, no, he was just trying to find the patent for himself so that he could destroy it and basically end any chances of the reptile's image being rehabilitated. Because ultimately, Pobbert is more loyal to his family, aka his class, than he is to any greater sense of justice, any greater kind of nobility. He would sell out the common folk in a heartbeat if it just meant getting in with the upper class of his family and being accepted by them. And I think that that's like a real type of person that exists and does stuff like that all the time. So yeah, I think that overall, like, the message of the movie is pretty strong. I think the relationship between Nick and Judy is pretty good in this one. Oh my god, dude, I couldn't believe it. We saw this in the theater. Thankfully, we saw this with an audience of mostly, like, families and not furries. Dude, there were some shots I could not believe. They put Judy Hopps in this, like, she's in this, like, tank top, like this tight tank top and these skin tight little yoga pants that I was like, this is crazy. You can't be doing this, dude. This is insane. And then Nick Wilde, he's like, it's subtler, but there's a scene where he's like in a suit. And I thought, I know at least one person who is like barking at the screen during this scene. I know one girl. We have one friend I know is howling at the screen when he walks out with that little, like, dramatic, epic shot of him in the suit. I can't believe that they would do that shit. Oh, I like the beaver character. Who is honestly gayer than any of Disney's first gay characters combined. Like, that is, I think it's hilarious that she's a beaver, because let's just say the only wood she's chomping is a log. let's just say that the beaver, call her the beaver eater. Am I right? Am I right? So the movie's like mostly, yeah, like the buddy cop stuff is pretty strong. I think it's a nice personal story that kind of accompanies the grander societal statement that it makes. And then at the end of the movie, they just give up. At the end of the movie, they just totally give up on the social message of the film, like the entire political message. It's so fucking funny. They just lib the fuck out. It's great. It's this whole film is about people in positions of power like influencing the government and shifting around history so that they remain in power at the oppression of innocent groups of people who are marginalized and forced out of society, deprived of their economic power, had horrible stereotypes created against them, just for the sake of controlling the narrative and control, like, essentially, like, locuses of power via, like, land ownership and things like the weather walls and all that stuff. Like, they basically own the government. And like the head Lynx daddy basically says that he picked the mayor himself. He handpicked him, and he picked him to be sort of because he knew that the mayor's like the horse actor guy from the previous film, and he picked him specifically because he thought he'd be kind of a pushover. He wasn't used to governance, and he can kind of push him around and be corrupt and all that stuff. This is like the whole message of, this is the whole implicit message of the movie that's being given to you. And then at the end of the movie, there's narration by Judy Hopps going, but if we all just get to know each other, you might realize that we're more alike than you'd think. And it's like, dude, that is not the issue. That is not, this is like what I mean when I say that this stuff, this is oh my god. I'm already talking about Zootopia. Let's get political. So the reason that these kinds of messages fail and are stupid is because they run into a lot of issues that I have with much liberal social messaging, which is that, okay, liberalism is an inherently individualistic ideology. It focuses on the individual as essentially like the source of things like human dignity. And it de-emphasizes communal responsibilities and stuff like that. It is ultimately like an individualistic, capitalistic ideology. And that's why the majority of the world considers it to be actually somewhat right-leaning instead of left-leaning. We just live in a fucked up, distorted political system where that is considered left-wing. That's considered radically left as the fucking Democratic Party of the United States. Like a total joke, if you know anything about what any of these words really mean. And the reason that it like, we just have to talk to each other and then racism will be solved is stupid, is because, do you guys not know about slavery? Like, there was an entire class of people, slave-owning plantation owners, who got up every day and spoke to black slaves that they owned, that worked in their home, that worked in their field, that made up the entirety of their labor force, or the bulk majority of their labor force. They saw the births of these black people's children. They would give their own children to them for safekeeping and education and protection. They would, in some cases, literally have sex with them. Well, in this case, there was no ability to really say no, so it's kind of categorically rape, and have children with them. And still, all of those people, all that being said, all those experiences, seeing multiple generations of these people go through your plantation, they would still look those people in the eye on any given day of the week and tell them with full honesty in their hearts, I don't think you're a person. I don't think you're a person like me. You don't have a soul like me. You're not really a human being. You're closer to an animal. You're closer to an ape. I'm sorry. Let's just talk to each other and let's just get to know each other. Doesn't always work. Like, there are forms of ignorance. there are forms of racism that exist due to a lack of experience, like that kind of an ignorance. And there, like, people always bring up that example of that black guy who makes friends with Ku Klux Klan members, and then eventually, like, they decide to hang up the hood, and also they hang up the jersey. And, like, that's great. That's awesome. And on an interpersonal level, it's wonderful that those people see the error of their ways and the ignorance that they've grown up in. But those people were racist because, like, they never really met a black person before. They'd never met, and a lot of people are like this. They don't have opinions, or they have negative opinions because they haven't met a certain group of people. This happens with, it is, to be fair, a common way that bigotry manifests itself. But there is another type of racism that exists not because of a lack of experience, but because the system, it is more beneficial to be racist. Like, to a degree where it almost doesn't even matter that it's race. Oh, I can just mistreat this whole category of people and extract 100% of the labor from them without giving them anything back? Pure exploitation? Well, great, fuck it. Of course I'm going to do that. Because there are incentive structures and a system that reinforces these things and rewards them. There are billion-dollar companies in this world that operate in America that benefit massively from slave labor. Massively from slave labor. Was that slave labor predicated on, like, those people being, like, in sweatshops in, I don't know, South America? Not necessarily. They just happen to be in South America. These are economic factors that drive racial oppression. It is in your best interest to lobby against the rights of these groups of people and to undermine any form of their liberation because you make a lot of money off of them. And again, to bring this back to Zootopia, this is what the lynxes do. This is literally what they do. It's like a little microcosm of something that really happens in the real world, that's happened all the time and is still going on. And just saying, well, what if we just, like, the lynxes, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, an executive had to have stepped in and been like, rewrite the, I don't know what it looked like originally. But there's no way you write a movie like this and you end like that was your choice for an ending monologue. It doesn't even make sense in the context of the movie because the snake that originally invented the weather walls was the maid of the nanny, I think, of the lynxes. They literally knew her. They talked to her every day. They entrusted their children to her. She lived in their home. They still framed her for murder and oppressed and gentrified and forced out her entire social group, class / race in this allegory. What are you talking about? We just need to talk it out. What is this? Did you pay attention? It's ridiculous. Now, thankfully, that's just like a stupid little monologue at the end of the movie. It's very minor. I just find it hilarious because it feels so disconnected from the actual, like, what I was watching with my eyeballs the whole time. For the most part, the movie is actually quite good. I think that the buddy cop stuff is a lot of fun. The peeks into the other. I really liked all the water. What is it? The water dwelling animals. There's like hippos and stuff like that, and walruses. Sort of like amphibious animals. I think a little bit of them. That was kind of cool. I like the reptile characters. This like little underground bar that they've got inside of a submarine. That was really neat. It makes sense that they would hang out in a swamp, which is a place that is warmer, typically. I thought the humor was fairly, it's like Disney family movie humor, but I thought it was relatively funny. It was pretty engaging. There was some fun character. A cat called the Beaver Lady the Rohan Kishibe of the movie, and I think that's really weird. I kind of see what she means. I just let her say shit like that because I love her. But anyway. Yeah, actually, I think quite an improvement on the original film. Much more cohesive, a much better allegory, much more focused. It builds upon its central theme a lot better, a lot more elegantly. And yeah, Zootopia 2, actually a win. Ween.